Okay, folks, this is John Schutzinger from Greenville Associates. I'm going to try to build a Windows application in 5 minutes or less, which you are going to find nearly impossible if you've never used Visual Studio before and you're a little scared, but I'm going to help you walk through it. So before I get into the details of building the installer, you'll see that I have built a solution file. Today I'm building an app called Toni Garrn app, and it is a very simple app. Toni Garrn is a Victoria's Secret model, and my goal is to include 3 pictures of Toni, a web file, and an executable in a package file. So when we go to install this application, it will have a web component and it will also have a compiled binary. And you'll find that that's very useful because the same solution works for both. But essentially what I've done, I'm using Visual C++, and I have written a single file called source.cpp, and I've compiled it already, so I'm not going to take you through that, but it does take about 20 seconds. And all I'm doing is I have 2 libraries, IOStream and string. And I am taking an input of a first name and a last name, and I am essentially presenting that back to you. So it's 25 lines of code. You can copy that and probably paste it into your program in 15 seconds or less. The only thing I would tell you though is that when you're using the Visual Studio compiler, you do have to essentially define what the standard namespace is that you're going to be using. So where you're going to present the input and output. So on a Windows program or even on a Mac, the namespace could be anything from a console app to the screen. So they have different namespaces. But in this case, I'm using the standard namespace for the console. I'm defining what I'm doing here. I'm just telling you I'm running the Toni Garrn app. I'm taking the last name and a first name and presenting those back to the screen. So I have really nothing here. I've gone and done a new solution called Toni's Video Wall, and I'm going to enhance this in the next couple programs that I'm going to do, next couple videos. But I'm starting out very simple. What we're trying to display here is that we can build a Windows installer. Now, when you build a solution file, it's sort of the manifest for all the binaries that you're going to have. And so when you build a Windows program, usually you'll have as many as 5 or 6 compiled binaries that go into a menu system. So it's very usual to have a solution file that has multiple executables associated with it. But if you go to add something to the solution, essentially you're just going to pick a new project, and you're going to add a new project to your existing compiled binary. And I've done that already, and you just pick the Setup app. And when you do, it creates a single screen here where you get to define what's on the desktop, what's in the programs menu, and what's in the application folder. Now, the only one that really matters a whole lot is this application folder. That's essentially what you're going to be putting into the install directory where you choose to put things. And the cool thing about Visual Studio is if you click Add here, you can go in and add the project output from the previous program. So my little 1-line or little 25-line program is the output, which is used as the input to the application installer, obviously. So if you create an exe file, you have to be able to put it in the program. So Visual Studio, by simply right mouse clicking, allows you to do that. Now the only thing I've done here is I've installed 3 pictures of Toni and an icon that I took a few minutes to convert. If you go on the internet and just search for JPEG to icon conversion, You can do that online. There's a number of tools that are free that you can do that, and it'll take you a few minutes, but it's certainly well worth your time. When you build an icon, it usually has a different pixel depth with it, and depending on what programming language you're using, the icons could be restricted, but in this particular case they weren't. Now, I've added these files already. You'll notice here that I've added MS Paint, which comes with Windows, and I put that into the binary output, and I did that just to point out that you can add really anything to your installer. So this basic installer that comes with Visual Studio allows you to do that. The advanced installer, which you can add or upgrade to, includes things like being able to install SQL Server before you install your app, or to build database connections as part of your install program. So that becomes very important as you get higher end. But in this case, I am just sticking with the basics, and this gets you through to the point where you can actually work. So when you right mouse click on Toni's app and click build, it's now going to create the installer for me. It takes about 20 seconds on this program. I already have one working, so I just wanted to show you what the output is, and then I will call it a day. But essentially I have defined where the output's going to go, and I have it going to this Greenville installers directory, and I'm going to click on the Toni installer, which I just built, and you'll see it asks me where I'm going to install to. I'm going to click next, and it's already going through and building the app and is adding it to the desktop. So you'll see now I've got this icon on the desktop. I have the menu item from Windows, and then I have the directory itself. So we'll get to this in just a second. So you'll see I now have a Greenville Associates directory, and I have essentially a shortcut to the app. So that is what I've done already. If you want to look at the install directory itself, you'll notice that if I go to Program Files, Greenville Associates, to Toni's app, you'll see that those files that I defined are now all there. And if you click on the Toni app, you'll see that it does in fact work, which is always the output. Now, as far as my little C++ program, I'll show you that too. That will take a little bit to get up because my machine is super slow. Alright, so this is the compiled binary. It's called Toni's Video Wall. You can see that right there. You can see that it is in the right directory. And I am just, right now, I'm just providing my first and last name, and it outputted. So that was pretty much it. It didn't really do anything. But it did create an exe for me so that we could test. So that's about the long and short of this whole solution, and I can verify that that all worked properly by simply going into the control panel, searching for me as the publisher, and you'll see that I am there somewhere. I have to go back out and go back in. F5 should work, but I'm going to do it again anyway, and there we go. So I now have Toni's app, which I installed, and I have installed a different installer, which I will show you at another time. So I have another program that I've been working with. It's called DB. It's much easier to use once you have a compiled binary. But it's a lot for the average person if you've never compiled a program before. So that's pretty much all we've got here. I have a fairly straightforward install, and I can in fact uninstall the same programs by just clicking on them and clicking on install. So all of that works as well. So the installer does create an install program. It also creates an uninstall program, which is just as important to keep your machine closed. So that's it for today. I hope you have a good night.